Shanti, Sister Rose.
Shanti, Sister Denise.
So here we are in EGY after rather a big gap. Sorry about that to everyone. It's been busy, and so according to drama, we meet Dharma Raj.
Actually, Sister Denise, I checked. The last time that we had EGY was in December, but in between we had the regular Murli study sessions, your classes with the different centers and places at different places in different parts of the world. And of course, the most recent was the retreat that you had with the family in Finland. So the sustenance is overflowing and continuous. We are still catching up, listening to them.
And I'm still catching up, editing them. Yeah, wonderful. So let's see. It took me a while to do the write-up of Dharma Raj because there was something stopping me from doing what we normally think until I got struck by Baba's touching or thought that, this is not what you think. People are still quite physically minded, and we all think we're going to go almost have a physical experience of Dharma Raj and actually meet, Brahma Baba and the Dadis and so on. But no, it struck me. All of this is about visions. Visions are all in your own head. Of course, at that time you won't have a head, but anyway, in your subtle head. And so then I started to be able to write that this is about visions. So we need to talk about visions. So,
Okay.
like that.
So, Sister Denise, please.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let me go through this write-up little bit by little bit. And as you know, I feel quite strongly that all these things have to be in context. And so let us move forward with this. So Dharma Raj in context. So Dharma Raj means the rule of Dharma. You can also translate it as the king of Dharma, but that would be Dharma Raja. Dharma Raj, I think, is really the rule of Dharma. And Dharma, it's used as a word for religion in the case of Buddhism and Hinduism. And in China, you have the concept of the Tao, which is pretty much the same as Dharma. But actually, Dharma means the way it is, and that refers to the original state of the soul, to the correct and accurate way circumstances occur when souls have only positive karmic accounts, and that is in the golden age. So our whole practice and work and all these things that we do and study is all about getting our karma so clean and so pure that it causes circumstances to correspond to who we are. And in the Iron Age, circumstances correspond to our negative karma. So we're always having some sort of battle with circumstances, and we feel that we don't have any power over circumstances. And this is because of our weakness, spiritual weakness, and also because of our negative karma. And even in the confluence age, because many people don't really understand about karma, and it takes years to really understand, there's still plenty of relatively negative karma going on, even in the confluence age. So this means that the confluence age takes a lot of time. So Dharma Raj also refers to the Supreme Justice. And this is where we have the idea that you will go and you will meet God, or you will meet God through the founder of your religion, and you will be in court and you will be trembling in front of the Supreme Justice because of all the sins you did. So this idea is represented very clearly in the different religions. So this concept exists in most religions, that when you die, you will appear before the Supreme Justice and be presented with your sins and their punishments. In those religions where there is no concept of reincarnation, that's the Judeo-Christian religions, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, they say either you will go to heaven somewhere up in the sky and remain there blissfully forever, or you will go to purgatory or to hell. And there you will experience severe or light punishments, which may continue for eternity, because if you don't reincarnate, then you have to stay where you end up forever. And it's hard for people to imagine the meaning of eternal damnation, but it's there in the concepts of the religions. The Indian scripture that describes this is the Shiv Puran. So there are many, many, many Indian scriptures. Of course, the main one is the Gita, and Baba talks about it a lot, refers to it a lot, and says that the Murlis are the real Gita. So there are the Vedas, the Upanishads, there is the Bhagavat, which is different from the Bhagavad Gita, and that's the stories of Krishna. There's the Mahabharata, which is the story of the last World War, the story of the Pandavas, Kauravas, and Yadavas. And then there is the Ramayana, which is the story of Ram and Sita and Ravan. And then there are the Purans, and there are many others as well. So the Purans are, there's different ones. And the Shiv Puran is very specifically about all the different varieties of punishments that you get in hell. And so in the Western world, we have the Divine Comedy of Dante. And this is Italian. And so the Purgatorio and Inferno are almost identical to the Shiv Puran. And that makes me think that he must have borrowed from the Indian scripture and combined and inserted into it his own elements in the political context of Italy in the 13th century. So if you study the Divine Comedy, it's really a comment on the different political players of Italy at that time. Then there is the Paradiso, which contains elements very similar to the BK description of the Golden Age. And you have these concepts of heaven, hell, and purgatory very clearly described in the Judeo-Christian religions, the Abrahamic religions, including Islam. And you also have this in Buddhism, you also have it in Hinduism. So, whether you are part of a religion which subscribes to reincarnation or not, there is the concept of being called to account for one's actions of this immediate past life by God through the founder of the religion. So in BK and in Hinduism, there is this concept of reincarnation. And so that means there's a particular amount of time in Hinduism, amount of time that you stay suspended upside down by one leg or something like that, with ants eating at your eyes. That's only for a certain number of thousands of years, because there is the idea that at the end of that you can reincarnate. So now what I found is, by observing what Baba says in the Murlis, that in fact Dharma Raj is all about visions. And in the early days of BK, there were many trance messengers. And they used to go and see what it's like in the Golden Age, but they also used to go to Dharma Raj and see what happens when you have when you are called to account for your sins. And one of the purposes of this was that it was quite difficult for Baba to get the BKs to understand the Gyan properly. And it was coming out slowly, and it was in the context of conventional Hinduism as it was understood during the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and so on. So this all happened when the BKs first came to Mount Abu, which is when they were first living together with Mama and Brahma Baba all together. Because in the time in Karachi, there's 14 years of tapasya, they were not really living together with Brahma Baba, because there was a court order separating Brahma Baba from all of them. And so the person who was caring for them was Mama. And they had several buildings, and they met together, especially in connection with developing meditation and behaving well, and the basic structures, the departments of the yagya started to get formalized, and they were really separate from the rest of the world. I think there were quite a lot of visions going on at that time too. But it was especially when they first came to Mount Abu that, and they were with Baba, that all of this took place with a lot of explanations. And at that time also there was this experience that Dadi Gulzar had. She was the main trance messenger and trance medium. And she saw Avyakt Brahma in the subtle regions. And so this matter of Dharma Raj, being that all BKs will go into the subtle regions, and they will see not only Avyakt Brahma, but they will also see the 8. And so Dharma Raj takes place at the end of the cycle. And so everyone leaves their bodies, and you cannot go to the soul world without passing through Dharma Raj. And so in that respect, when you come in front of the subtle form of Avyakt, Bab, Dada, and the Eight, all of this is going on in visions. But of course, you experience vision as if it is clear reality. And it corresponds quite well to some virtual reality experiments and films and so on. And so there is one which Maggie drew my attention to just came in Netflix, which is called Three Bodies Problem. And there it shows that you put on a special helmet and immediately you're transported into this completely different place, which resembles very much the experience of having a vision and what happens to you there, and you experience it as real as the physical world. And so when people have visions, they experience it exactly like this. And they do not have this thought that, oh, I'm having a vision, it's all in the mind. The experience is, this is real. And what Baba is telling us is, yeah, you feel that it's real, but it is all in the mind. And so you experience the eight, and Baba has said that when there is the complete end and everybody goes in their subtle bodies to the subtle regions, you will know what your number is, you will know who you are, you will, if you are karmatit, you've finished all your karmic accounts, you've done very good pure karma during the confluence age, then you will be rewarded. And if there are some outstanding punishments, this especially for the confluence age, right? Not referring to your previous incarnations, just this one. Then you will see various ways in which you did something against Srimat, against Baba, against the BKs, whatever it happens to be. And then you will experience some kind of visionary punishment. And visionary means you also experience pain, because anyway, pain is subjective, it's in the mind. And I think there are some occasions where Baba said that your experience of punishment will be it will take just a second, but it'll feel like 1,000 years. So what is real? It's really what you experience in your mind. But then people say, well, that's only in the mind and reality is outside in the material world. But anyway, you experience the material world in your mind through your sense perception. And when you're experiencing Dharma Raj, it's in your mind through the fact that the mind is also a form of instrument of perception, but it's not sense perception, it's just perception. So according to the way people think in the world, it is said that when a person dies, the details of their life passes before them in a flash, but the experience is that it takes quite a long time to pass before their mind's eye. So there is a film, quite an old one, called The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, that describes this phenomenon. So this is a film about a man who was lynched. And so he was put on a horse with a hangman's noose around his neck, and then they hit the horse, so he runs away and the man gets hanged. And so this moment of getting hanged is where his life passed before him, and that's the whole film. And so nowadays, with the use of AI and all the technological wonders that we have in a graphic design and all these possibilities, we can actually represent these things and experience them very clearly in film. And so that's very helpful. And as you know, Baba uses technology for his convenience. And sometimes he says that all of this communications technology and AI and so on was invented because he needed it for his work. And so he inspired the scientist to do whatever he needs. That's kind of interesting. So all this means that when we are thinking about our spiritual life, we need to give importance to the phenomenon of visions. And not all BKs experience visions. Some do. I have experienced quite a few. And together with visions, there are also certain types of dreams. And some dreams are prophetic and some are messages. And these type of dreams function similarly to visions. So we might call them visionary dreams. And you can get access to these visible thought forms during meditation or deep thinking. So a part of what happens when we are in deep meditation is it opens up our subconscious and in different ways. And one of the effects of that is that you are open to Baba communicating with you through dreams or through sudden visible thought forms that appear to you, because as a BK, as a Raj Yogi, you are also in, all relationships with one. You are in communication with Bap Dada, and so he can communicate with you as needed, and so that you understand something, so that you understand what he's thinking about, what you're up to, and some directions even. And it gives you very often premonition of something that's going to happen. It can give you validation that something you want to do is the right thing or the wrong thing. And so this is very good when your yoga is, we can say, accurate. And one of the problems about this, and Baba also mentions that Maya interferes with your experience of the subtle regions. And there are people who, especially people who have certain kinds of mental health problems, in the sense that they can sort of spin out into a mental state where you are in contact with all sorts of stuff, which is not Baba, but which is can be ghosts floating around in the atmosphere. It can be some kind of weird ideas that has nothing to do with anything. It can be memories of your traumas. It can be fantasy, all sorts of things. And these things are experienced with maybe the same degree of realness as some of these prophetic and message dreams. And then people who are into that, or who do that, or who experience that, they can't tell the difference whether this is God talking to them or what's going on. So there's plenty of that. In fact, there's far more of that than those who are really connected with Baba. So always, through the Murlis, always there is interference with your spiritual practice. So you need to be very grounded, and Baba usually mentions that when you are experiencing something like this, you need to verify it with other quite competent senior BKs so that they can tell you if you're going into some crazy space or whether this is real. So then there are some dreams which are the ordinary effects of current circumstances. So it happens very often that you are in some experience during the day and you have a dream that corresponds to it at night. So these are not important as regards the dimension of consciousness we're looking at today. It's also the case that there are people who are doing psychological work, therapeutic work, and they use lucid dreaming to get in touch with some of their very deeply buried trauma, which can also represent itself through symbols that occur in dreams. So all of these are different ways in which you experience visions and dreams. And you need a very clear understanding of Gyan and very clear, pure mind to differentiate between all these things. And it's not always easy. Now, this is connected with the phenomenon of recognition of God and recognition of Gyan. So if there is something really that is happening with you, you have to check it against your recognition of God and your recognition of Gyan. And if it doesn't fit, then it will not be a real. Now, going into what happens in the soul, how you can access different parts of the soul. And of course, every soul is different. Every soul has a different number of births, but each golden aged soul who arrives at the beginning of the golden age contains the recording of their entire roll of 84 births, and their personal cycle corresponds exactly to the world cycle of 5,000 years. So this correspondence indicates some special difference from other souls who enter the time cycle later on. So if you come at the very beginning of the golden age, then you have your entire self is the same thing as the entire collective self of the human history on the planet Earth over 5,000 years. So there is a difference between such a soul and other souls who enter the time cycle later on. So they will have some things missing that they will not understand, they will not know about, they will not have experienced. So there is this spectrum of correspondence that covers the souls who play significant roles in the entire cycle, which is a key to the concept of number-wise. Now, there are some souls who play significant roles from the Copper Age onwards, like the founders of religion. And because they play significant roles, there will be something in them that is also different from other souls because they know who they are, especially when they have their encounter with God in the confluence age, which they will, and they do, and they have, but no one else will know who they are, but they will know who they are. So these numbers are 8, 108, 16,108, and 900,000. So these numbers are mentioned quite a bit in the Hindu scriptures, and some people call them sacred numbers. Sacred because they have a lot of significance attached to them. And if you understand these, or if you are part of one of these, then you are also a soul of importance relative to other souls. So if you are one of the 8, then you reach the end of the confluence age and receive the gold medal of the Karmatit stage. So this gold medal, this is a symbol that full success, you made it. And in that case, you do not face the accountability of coming in front of Dharma Raj, but you become part of Dharma Raj, which means that others will face you. So you, along with Brahma Baba, are an example of someone who made themselves karmatit in this confluence age life. And so those who are the 8, they will know who they are, and that inner knowing will be confirmed when they leave the body and they go to the subtle regions and they are met by Bap Dada and people of a Borg, and they will also see that, this one is of this caliber. So it also means that you understand the intricacies of the philosophy of karma, and therefore your karma at the level of thought, word, and deed fulfill the requirements of pure karma. Now, BKs who live around those who are 8, 108, 16,108, etc., are mostly judging each other on the basis of conventional morality, because it takes a while for a person to become soul conscious in the intellect, in the mind, in the sanskaras, to the point where they are free from what is called parmat. And so conventional morality is parmat, and it is absolutely nothing to do with the reality of what is correct and incorrect karma according to Dharma Raj or according to God. And so many BKs misjudge people. They don't understand who is what. They don't know the difference between what is conventional morality, correct action, which may or may not actually be correct action. And so if you are one of the 8, you will know the difference, and you will operate according to Shrimat, real information about karma. So you will have understood and recognized God as He is and what He is. Therefore, your yoga has been accurate, and you have finished off all your karmic bondages and debts. So this process of disconnecting yourself from your bondages of family and karma that may be very, very deep and long is a process, and you need to really go through it and recognize it for what it is, and really, really be free from all of your karmic bondages of 63 births. And by following Shrimat and having good yoga, you're gradually able to do this. And also you will have many karmic bondages with different BKs, because you have been together for 5,000 years, more or less. And so there's that as well. And so you see in the how the drama plays out between yourself and other BKs, between yourself and your Lokic relatives and your culture and so on, all of this has to be finished. And so it's a gradual process, and this is why it takes basically your whole life to accomplish. And then you are free. If you are one of the 108, then you reach the end of the confluence age and receive perhaps a silver medal. So gold, silver, bronze are the medals that you get in the Olympics. And so this is a kind of Olympic Games story that we have. So you may get a silver medal. You are a victorious jewel, but some small thing is missing, which puts you into the second number. So you will pass through Dharma Raj, and you will experience a twinge or a tweak of incompletion. You are a king, but not an emperor of the world. So you may have, in your work, you may have sustained many people, but not the whole world. You may sustain one group of people, but not another group of people. So you have to be really a world server to be one of the 8. And otherwise your kingdom is in limited space. You may still also have some outstanding karmic debt that you didn't finish completely with yoga. So there will be something that Dharma Raj will say to you, and you will experience some kind of twinge of punishment, and then you will go ahead. If you are a 16,108 and you reach the end of the confluence age, you will receive full marks for loyalty and become part of the royal family. You are good, but you are not competent enough or have not served enough to qualify as a king. So there are various forms of insufficiency or incompletion, and your yoga was not sufficient to finish off all your karmic accounts. So then the next category, which is the 900,000. So if you are of the 900,000, then at the end of the confluence age, you are a subject of the first dynasty, and your status is determined by your karma, your service, your investment in the work of God. You are not in the royal family, so you're subjects. Your yoga was not so accurate or sufficient to enable you to be free. So these are the people who come at the beginning of the golden age. So these are the souls who most likely have recognized God, they've recognized Gyan, and they are part of this Brahmin family or BKs. So they have this very essential element of recognition of God, recognition of Gyan. But what they do with it, of course, some work with it completely and some not. Then there are the souls who are called the souls of the Silver Age, and they number about 330 million. So the Silver Age is connected with the Ramayana, and in the Ramayana, these are the people who operate according to conventional morality, public opinion, all of this. So that's the majority of people. And so Baba says these are the ones who fail. They fail because they're still in Parmat and not in Shrimat completely. So all of these are souls who would have had some access to the knowledge, who would have recognized God and Brahma Baba to some extent, and who would have done some good karma according to the Gyan and yoga they learned. But it wouldn't be fully, you see. They're still partially caught up in the bhakti, Hindu bhakti mostly, and parma especially. So Baba has said that between each birth, when the soul enters a womb, then that soul sees visions of various negative karmas they did, and they would suffer proportionately for these mistakes. So this is an experience of visions in the womb, and it also is connected with if you have any birth defects or trauma of birth, if you get born in a cesarean section or any other sort of traumatic thing that happens to the baby in emerging from the womb. So there's a lot of suffering in there. And then Baba says that they promised not to do whatever it was, but because it's they can't change their sanskaras without going through the process of Raj Yoga. And so therefore those same mistakes happen again because it depends on sanskaras. So this reality of having visions in the womb as you reincarnate applies to all souls of all religions and cultures along a spectrum that depends on their sensitivity, their love for God, their love for humanity, nature, and spirituality. So you can understand that if there's anyone from any part of the world who does serious damage to other people, that they will be very much afraid of death, because when there is death, there is also this facing Dharma Raj in this form, and also experiencing all this mental and in a way physical punishment. So people who are not afraid of death are also people who have a good stock of good karma, because there's not going to be that much of a horror story when they go into the womb of their next birth. So understanding Dharma Raj means to understand and evaluate the self accurately. So for that, a good practice is to engage in deep and rigorous self-checking. So you check yourself about your motives, the why you did what you did, that you're operating according to your conscience, according to the essence of Shrimat, and so on. So the very important work is to activate the power of conscience. So when you do things against your conscience, you are deactivating your conscience. And everybody does a fair amount against their conscience, one way or the other. But once you come in Gyan and you start doing this practice seriously, you want to operate according to your conscience. And conscience is part of the intellect. So when your conscience is clear, your intellect is working very well. And one of the things that happens, which not everybody accepts, but it is the case, that sin is not only the things that you do against people, places, things, God, but it's also traumatic experiences that happen to you from some other person, some aggression, some damage, some killing, some torture. So all of these things, they go into the soul and they create a distortion, and they compromise your intellect, your intelligence, your conscience, your heart, all of these things. And so all of this has to be repaired during the confluence age. And when a person has suffered greatly because of the mistakes of other people, that's quite a long process of repair, which doesn't necessarily mean that you are a bad person. But in conventional morality, there is absolutely no concept at all that damage to the soul happens from other people and operates as a sin because of the distortion. So we have to take that into consideration. Baba speaks about the divine intellect, which is called Divya Buddhi. So Divya Buddhi, divine intellect, is also called Divya Drishti. And Divya Drishti is also the word for visions. So sometimes in English they use the word divine insight for this, but it's visions. It can also be an insight in the sense that without actually going off in trance, you understand something or you see something overlaid on the regular reality. And sometimes people refer to that as divine insight. These are visions that reveal the extraordinary contents of the soul, such as the imprints of heaven. So because you were literally in the golden age, you will have seen Krishna, Narayan, the buildings, the place. So you have that in you. So you will see that again. So you will see the visible forms and characteristics of the deities. You can also have direct experiences of a vision of incorporeal God. You will see the light, you will see the soul world, you will see all these things which you cannot actually see, but you will see a vision of it. And you will also see the angelic stage. So you remember that in the picture of the three worlds, the original picture, there are, in the subtle region, there are three sections, a white section, a yellow section, and a red section. So in your visionary experiences, you go to the white section, that's experiences of the subtle regions with Brahma Baba and the angels, or the angelic form of different very elevated souls, those who are the eight. So you will see this, and you will see any other symbols and images that Baba wants you to receive so that you understand something or carry a message to someone if you're a trance messenger. So you see that in the white area. And then you will also see the golden age in the yellow area. And then you will see how they live, what they look like, what they eat, how they move around, what activities they do. And then in the red area, you can see the soul world, and you can also see the destruction. And you can see also Dharma Raj, where Dharma Raj is facing you with your mistakes, and you see the various punishments that happen for that. And this was done with different trance messengers in the early days of the yagya, and people would experience very, very severe punishment in their trance experience for whatever sin was outstanding. And then Baba would say that, okay, what has happened is that your trance experience of Dharmaraj has actually finished off some quantity of sin, so that the fact that you were willing to be an instrument for people to understand what happens in Dharmaraj, and you went through it, so a good quantity of your sin was removed in that way. And this is also reminiscent of the sacrifice at Kashi that Baba mentions quite often, that when a person sacrifices their life in this well, which is full of swords, and chops them up on the way down, very, very serious pain, and then they are thrown right away into Dharma Raj, where they experience the punishment of all of the sins that they had done up until that point. And then when they start their next birth, they start with a clean slate. And this is also, I think, the same thing as what happened to the soul of Jesus, having passed through the crucifixion and sacrificed his life for the sake of the Christ. So he would have also been completely purified through that crucifixion, which Baba has mentioned. So Divya Drishti also reveals the completely tamo-pradhan state of the soul, terrible sins that are on one's conscience, as well as ghosts and various devilish presences and acts. So there are ghosts and devilish presences roaming around, which you can encounter and experience. You have to deal with that. So don't worry about it. Be with Baba and deal with it. So you may experience these at extreme moments, such as when you are about to die or you have just died. And this may also overwhelm you in the form of punishment in the womb. At the time of destruction, when all souls leave their bodies together, then any outstanding karmic burden, debt, or other trauma will be seen with Divya Drishti as a vision, and this will also purify the soul through the pain or trauma of the experience. So this is also called Dharma Raj Puri in the subtle regions. So Dharma Raj Puri, this word Puri refers to these different sections of the subtle regions. And so you can say that Dharma Raj Puri is a part of the, maybe we can say the white area, because there you do see like the present time, you see everything in the angelic form. You see Brahma Baba, but you see all kinds of other things as well. And these are given the name Dharma Raj Puri among the BKs who know about these things. So all of this occurs because the soul must be completely pure, karmatit, in order to return to the soul world. You see, because no impure soul can be in the soul world. That is not possible. And so then, at the destined moment, all these pure souls return to the earth at their right time, and they go through the cycle one more time. And so it goes, cycle after cycle after cycle. Shanti. Thank you.
So, Dharamraj, actually, we have seen usually Dharamraj spelled as Dharamraj in one word. And it's only through you that I have seen Dharma Raj, which somehow made it easier to grasp.
I think this is because of just the way it's spoken, Dharmaraj. And so they write it like that because it's spoken like that. But then, yeah, it's actually Dharma Raj. But, you know, people do this personification. And so there is this idea, you know, like Maya is some woman somewhere floating in the air disturbing you. And Dharmaraj is also a character who is going to scare you. And so it is very much part of the Hindu devotional way of doing this personification. It's a religious phenomenon.
So, as you explained, it is visions. It is actually through vision. You experience Dharamraj through vision.
Yes.
And so, what if, as a BK, I haven't had experienced visions?
Well, at the end, when you come out of your body, then you're in your subtle body, which means whatever you experience is visions. And so it doesn't matter if you didn't have any vision beforehand, because you were maybe too gross in your consciousness or not connected with your subtle capacity to understand things. But at that time, everything is in the subtle regions, everything is visions, and everything is completely different kind of time and space, and it's also absolutely individual.
Do the rest of the souls also experience Dharamraj?
They do, and they experience it differently. Like BKs will experience it with a lot of included visions of Brahma Baba, of the Dadis, or whoever the 8 are. And they will experience, according to their studies and understanding of Gyan, which will vary from individual to individual. And then the people of the different religions will experience according to their religious context. For example, in Buddhism, you have the Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So this shows all the details of what happens to a person when they go to Dharma Raj. Yeah, it's all written there. You can read it. It's quite interesting. It corresponds to the Shiv Puran. It corresponds to the Dante's Divine Comedy. So all of these pieces of literature come from an original source, which is the experience that every soul has at the end of the last cycle. And
Their last birth in the cycle.
their last death.
Their last death. Yeah, their last death. What about souls who do not belong to any particular religion?
Well, they may not belong to a religion in the sense that they don't believe in anything in particular, but they get born in a culture, and ideas that are in the religion that dominates that culture will be known to them. So they will experience. I mean, there are some people who believe in God, but they're not religious. There are some people who don't believe in God and they're fully materialistic. But then when they get to a highly dangerous situation, they turn to God. And a life-threatening situation, that generally happens, or else they die denying God. But if you accept God or you deny God, you're still thinking about God. So it ends up that something like that is there in their consciousness.
And is the experience of punishment in the womb clears away all the sins of that particular birth?
Well, it is said that it cleans up the outstanding sins of the previous birth, but it doesn't change the sanskaras, and I think it doesn't clean out all of them. It cleans out some of them. Because overall, your 63 births in the copper and iron age, there has to be an accumulation. And so the thing is, what is a matter of a matter to consider is, to what extent are you calling sin dharma, dharma or karma or sanskaras, you see? Because different people will define it differently. And Baba, when he defines it, he will also define it differently on different days in different murlis. And so you can't really separate sanskaras and karma, negative karma, positive karma. So then it becomes how you think about it, how you talk about it. And some of that is connected with your pre-existing belief system. Because these things are not quite so black and white as ABC 1, 2, 3. It's quite subtle. And you have to, in many cases, it's paradoxical. You have to decide what you think it is, and you may change your mind, and that's okay. Because, in a scientific context, it's either this or that, you see. But in a spiritual context, it's everything all together, and it's very paradoxical.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of varies, like the weather, is this a good day or a bad day? It depends how you feel about it. And in science, there's nothing like how you feel about 2 + 2 is 4. Nothing to do with it, But you can say, oh, this is my karma, this is my sin, this is my test, and all of it'll be right. And you can have any one of them and vary them, and it's okay.
Sister Denise, what is a healthy perspective or relationship to have with Dharamraj?
I think it's really useful to bring up the matter of conscience, because conscience is quite more tangible than the idea of Dharma Raj, as far as I'm concerned. So if you are right with yourself, if you are right with your conscience, if you are guided by your conscience, you do things according to your conscience, then that's clean. And if you're clean according to your conscience, I think there's a very good chance that that will correspond with your relationship with Dharmaraj. And what happens is a lot of people are in self-deception because, a person may have a lot of sanskaras that are quite negative due to trauma that they have experienced, which is not something they've done, but something that was done to them. And there, your conscience will say, you're a good soul, but the demons in your subconscious will say you're a bad soul. So you have these two counteractive messages that come on the inside of your being. And you need to be able to identify where each one is coming from and what's what. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of investigation, a lot of study about these things, so that you're in a better position to make a good evaluation, a realistic evaluation. And I give you an interesting example, which is that girls who have been raped at a young age tend to steal. And now the judicial system can't deal with that idea. They will say there's no connection with getting raped and stealing, but there is. And they can't see the connection, but some researchers have seen that this is a pattern that is there. And so a girl who's been raped at a young age, that's a very bad trauma, which seriously messes up her mental, psychological, and emotional functioning. And then she will feel guilty because the world looks at that as her fault. And because when something bad happens to you, the religious background says you deserve this, and it happened to you because you were bad. So then you start thinking of yourself as bad, and you've got a very complicated wound inside. And it may happen that you steal from a shop or something. You have plenty of money. You could perfectly well buy the thing. You steal it, you get caught. And then you have to be insulted by the police and the shop and all of this and classified as a thief, you see, which has nothing to do with the reality, but people are so completely ignorant about the subtleties of these things that the morality is a very damaging to the human race. And this is why Baba says your big enemy is Paramat. And it's very hard for people to grasp this, to understand this. And usually, you know, a person in that situation will never talk about it. So they have to deal with everything on the inside.
Mhm.
They may or may not do it successfully, but you have to be so strong in your sense of self that you can neutralize everything that's coming from the world, all the messages, all the moral authorities, or even BK teachers, your upline people may evaluate you according to Paramat because they have no clue about these things. And so this is another reason why people keep quiet, because they know that nobody will understand what's going on. But then they're on their own, you see. And it's quite difficult for a person who's on their own with no information to handle these things, but it can be done. Not so easy.
But I think this is a more useful approach than hearings. It said that, you know, you have to be afraid of Dharamraj, that it is actually good to have fear of Dharamraj.
Well, that's if you're an ordinary religious person, you will think like that. But that's completely ridiculous, meaningless, counterproductive, and not a good idea as far as I'm concerned. You don't have to be afraid of anything or anyone as long as you are in a good relationship with your conscience. Because, you know, why would you be afraid of God? As if you have agreed to this religious angle that you are fundamentally a bad soul and we wonderful people will fix you. No, you will not fix me. You will cause me trouble. And I'm not afraid of God. God is my mother, father, teacher, friend. Why would I be afraid of that? You see, it's all about your self-honor.
Mm.
And people who try to get you to acquire these unrealistic, incorrect feelings are religious in Paramat, and they believe that this is a good way to go, but it's actually not a good way to go. So these people may call themselves in Gyan, but I would not call them in Gyan. They don't know what's what. There it is.
Sister Denise, what about Court of Indra? Is this also associated with Dharamraj?
Yeah, it is. It's basically the same thing because Indra is the equivalent of Jupiter, the god Jupiter, Indra, the god of rain and thunder and all of this. And this is Brahma Baba. This is, you know, the like Brahma Baba, not in his nice, friendly, loving, sweet stage, but it's him saying, you know what? I know exactly who you are and what you did. And now let's talk about the realities. And so it is, yeah, the same thing.
So, Sister Denise, may I read now the comments from Zoom? Near-death experiences. Some who report having had this experience report having had visions, experience with the light, and consequently have a big life transformation. Any comment on this?
Yeah, there are some who have experienced that. There are some who did not have a big life transformation. It's very individual. I think that quite a lot of people, it helped them to overcome their fear of death because, you know, in our culture, in Western culture, which believes that there's only one life, then when you die, you cease to exist. So people don't want to cease to exist because they are anyway immortal souls. And so the possibility of ceasing to exist goes against the grain totally. But this belief is there. And when people have near-death experiences, very often they see the light, they see some relatives coming to meet them, and they feel comfortable, they feel good. And I have never seen a near-death experience where anybody's gone to Dharma Raj. I think you have to have an actual death experience to go to Dharma Raj. And so that's what I would feel about that. I mean, I've had a near-death experience, and it made me understand that anyway, I'm not afraid of death. So that was good, because otherwise I would say probably I'm not afraid of death, but I don't know because I didn't check it out. But it enabled me to do that. And it also enabled me to really sense the closeness of Baba right there, and who said, yeah, you may die, but it's not time, so get going, you know. And, I think everybody's near-death experience is quite personal and very much connected with their belief system about death, immortality, being, the soul, and all this.
This is from Vanji. Vision versus sense perception. How does one draw that line if reality is equated with materialism and sense perception? How can one rely on vision, which may be a creation of one's imagination?
Well, this is a very interesting thing because imagination can be something fantasy, which is not real. It can be that you're using your capability of imagination to understand something that is real and to visualize or envision or even see the future of something that's coming. In all cases, you're using the same faculty, which is the faculty of the mind, to perceive reality, whether it's physical reality or a reality of the Dharma Raj type or the subtle region type. And because of the way our English language or maybe other languages are constructed, the word imagination presumes it's not real, because a language is made up by people who are entirely body conscious and who say that if it's physical, it's real. If it's not physical, it's not real. And so and these are people who have very limited understanding. And so you have to kind of get past that. And so you need to know that with your mind, you can perceive things that doesn't require sense perception. So a person who is, I think, well practiced in this And one of the things you find among indigenous people is they haven't been told that only sense perception is reality and other perception is not reality. So as far as they're concerned, the whole thing is reality. So they don't have this problem, which has been imposed on us by the wonderful materialistic people in power who we are surrounded with. So you just have to understand that you can perceive material reality with your sense organs, and you can perceive other things directly with your mind. And this is like a sixth sense. So for some people, the sixth sense is extraordinary. For some people, it's a normal part of life. But then you also have other things which are imaginary in the sense of fantasy. They're not real. And you experience them because of some sort of fear or trauma or like it's something unreal that you are afraid of, which looks like real, but it isn't real. And you need to be able to discern the difference. And that happens as you become more and more sort of adult.
Listening to your explanation of the different classifications, like number 808, 16,108, 900,000. What is, okay, if those are predetermined, how can a BK qualify for these rosaries?
Well, it's predetermined once it's happened. You know, there is this expression, bani banaya. It's made and it's getting made at the same time. So this is something that is quite hard for people to understand, because again, in body consciousness, it's either something or something else. It can't be both at the same time. But Baba says, no, spirituality means paradox. Spirituality means something that is fixed and something that is getting fixed is coexisting. So when you are in the present moment, any present moment, you have full jurisdiction. You have your possibility or freedom to act, but as soon as it's over, it's over. You can't change it. So it's like that. And you have to assert at different moments what it is, and that you have to discern. Okay, this is me, this is present time, my will is being applied, and this is where it's going, and you decide what happens. And there are other moments where everything is like the force of predestination is there and there's nothing you can do. But as you become a stronger and stronger yogi, you become more, I saw this in Dadi Janki, she can make the drama do whatever she wanted. Dadi Prakash Mani also. So I think it's connected with your level of yoga, your power as a spiritual being. And, you know, there's very few who are at that level. And most of us are, sometimes we can, sometimes we can't.
In this regard, how do you define a world server?
A world server is someone who has love for the whole world and who doesn't have racism, who doesn't have, you know, favor men over women, favor the West over the East, favor the North over the South. Anyone who limits themselves to some group of people and excludes others, they're not world servers. But if you are somebody who will serve any soul who desires to understand these things and who has a right, you know, you will not deny people their rights. You are a world server.
This is from Zoom. Is there an understanding of which sins are cleared in the womb and which ones at the very end before going to Paramdam?
I don't think you have that kind of information. You have to deal with it when it happens. But you cannot go into somebody else's mind when something's going on in between one birth and another birth or any of this stuff. And so you are able to understand the principle of it. But actually, I would think that from Baba's point of view, what difference does it make? Make any difference? You have to deal with what comes when it comes. And again, I would go to your conscience. One of the things you can consider is that something Baba has said, there are some forms of damage to your soul which will force you to do something which you don't want to do, or feel something that you don't want to feel, or act in a certain way that you don't want to, but you're powerless over it. It's like a deep addiction, not substance addiction, but some sort of addiction. And you cannot, under any circumstances, make it go away. This means that this is a very, very deep and powerful trauma. And that you keep working on it and working on it and working on it, and gradually you do get power over it. And then by the time you get to a womb or Dharma Raj, you're clear.
Okay. Another question. I have always considered dreams as good indicators of the state and content of the deeper underground layers of the subconscious. There has been experiences when going back to sleep after Amrit Vela would surface haunting experiences of ghosts or of some gross impurities. How does one interpret this to move forward?
Well, after Amrit Vela, it means you've had very good yoga, you have opened up your subconscious, and if you go back to sleep, then it will present to you all kinds of ghosts and devils and so on. It means you did a good job and they're on their way out, so no problem.
Mhm.
But you can't deny that they're in there. They are, but they're coming out, so let them go out.
Before entering the home, the home, we settle all our karmic accounts. If we are from the dynasty of the moon, because we have something left to settle, how could it be that we enter the home clean and then go down to the silver age? Why has there been anything left to settle?
No, when you go to Dharma Raj, it's a cleaning process. So anything left to clean, you clean it, and then you go where you go and you come back where you come back, because you don't know until you're there. So you can't really say if I'm Silver Age then, because you don't know. You may or may not be. Do not judge yourself too harshly.
Mm. Okay. This is a comment. Didi Nirmala confirmed before that she thinks she would be in the tribunal at the end, being in charge of the Australia Asia Pacific region. She knows the spiritual and personal background of most students there. How does the Tribunal of Dharamraj in this case work out?
Well, I remember I met her just a little while before she left the body, and we had a good conversation. And after she left the body, I offered Bog for her, and I saw she got the gold medal. She is one of the 8. And so we will meet her over there, whether we are in the Southeast Asia region or someone else, because she knew a lot more than just them. And she, I would say, is a world server. And we'll see when it comes up. because we don't know that much in advance, but yeah, she knows who's what. I tell you one thing about Dadi Prakash Mani, which I experienced very clearly, is that, and Didi Manmohini also, they can look at you and tell everything about you just by looking. Dadi Janki could do that too, Dadi Gulzar also, which makes me understand very clearly these are all part of the 8, and I think it's well accepted. And they don't need to know the details of everything because it's all visible when they look at you. They can see right through to the depth of your being. And this is what makes them extraordinary beings. You know, they are up there in the same level as Mama and Brahma Baba. And so if you have anything to hide, don't even try because they'll see everything. And Dr. Nirmala also. So, you know, this is why I say the most important thing is to have a good connection with your conscience. So you make sure there is nothing on your conscience that you don't clear. You must clear everything, then go up there, and then they'll see if there's anything left over that you missed.
Okay, so a comment. Thank you, Sister Denise. You have helped me think more deeply about aspects that I did not know how to face. It is true that it takes time to understand the law of karma, and I've been able to interpret something today in a different, more liberating way, thanks to your intervention. Because sometimes, despite all the benefit that there is in a situation, I experienced it with pain because I had done well in it. And despite this, I interpreted the result as betrayal. However, now I have been able to understand that that situation came as the opportunity to settling something, and having done well during it was to make it easier for me to get out of that karmic account and be in a new situation that allows me to dedicate myself to my spiritual progress. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you very much for sharing.
There is, I think, a few more. This is from Zoom. We are channeling the energy of a very high being, the Supreme Soul. And for that, one needs a very clear and rested mind to draw power. Why is it still insisted that one should meditate even when you fall asleep? You are very tired, in poor health. It's a very long question, Sister Denise.
Well, I get the gist of it. So basically, you know, if you're too tired and you can't meditate, then you can't meditate, whether somebody tries to make you meditate or not. That's just the way it is. And you do whatever you can to prepare yourself and get a suitable rest and so on. That you can meditate, and you can meditate at any time of the day. Every one of us knows the time of Amrit Vela is the time Baba has given us the appointment. And so you do it, and there are days when you are having more energy, less energy, whatever. And it's not that higher planes, lower planes, ghosts wandering around, this and that. That is a bhakti idea. That is not gyan. And there's nothing to do with planes like this. You become soul conscious, you remember Baba, and ghosts and goblins can attack you when it's time for them to attack you. And that's nothing to do with different planes. It's a different thing.
Thank you, Sister Denise. I remember Didi Nirmala also once said that, you know, when you're sleepy in meditation, you better go to sleep and then do meditation later. At least you do one thing.
It's much better, you know, no point in forcing yourself and making yourself disempowered by doing that. That's not sensible. It's called
Okay.
neminat. You know this word neminat? Neminath, yeah, there's a temple in India to Neminath. So Neminath means the lord of somebody who does everything by the book, but it's not that great.
Mhm.
So, you know, you have to be realistic, reasonable, and sensible. That's better.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Denise, for this clear explanation. And what I took from this is really, again, the importance of establishing this relationship with one's conscience. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really the guide, my guide.
That's what I think as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And also thank you to the translators, our translators, who have made themselves available for this service opportunity. Thank you so much. So, Sister Denise, may we end it with a moment of silence?
Thank you. Yes, and thank you also. Thanks to everyone. So let us have just a moment of stillness and see you all soon.